What I want to do is kind of maybe model this into the way I think about it and the way we're kind of looking at practicing this. And hopefully that starts to resonate with you and kind of thinking about your practice. But when we think about the awareness side, it's a lot about creating that insight that, aha, oh, there's a new path. There's something new to think about. There's something maybe I wasn't taught in business school, or, I haven't done, but some of it's just connecting dots. Oh, servant leadership or situational leadership, or other things that you've learned, and that's great. Those are great ahas. But the question then becomes, when we think about competency, when we think about, okay, what do I actually do to get there? That's what becomes hard. That's what we start to realize. People are like, oh shit, right? This isn't something I can just go to a 2-day class and be a great Agile leader. I can't go to a 2-day class and be a great Scrum Master. That's going to take some work. And so what we're connecting here for you is this concept that leadership isn't an achievement. It's not a level, right? It's something that we think about a little bit more like a skill, something that has to be developed, something that has to be nurtured, stressed. And so what I'm going to do is connect this to like your fitness or health, and not to say any of us are perfectly fit or perfectly healthy. This is one of those things that's like, this is something I've got to continuously work on. I've got to put the reps in every day. I've got to, set some goals and be effective. So thinking about that, what does it take to get and stay healthy? As I think through this, I think, first of all, I have to have a resolution to do so. I have to have focus, a purpose, like, okay, this is important to my life. Second thing, when we know about health, we think about, all right, what I take in, what I eat, and then what I put out, my exercise, right? I have to get that in balance to some degree, where are my calories in, calories out. Third, I've got to build routines. This could be exercise routines, this could be eating healthy routines, whatever that is, but those things have to happen every day. And then fourth, it's usually best not doing this alone. Usually this is where we want community. This is where we get help. We go to clubs, things like that. Then we're all going to fall back. So how resilient are we at getting back on, the path? And then finally, this never ends, right? And that's kind of the, oh shit part. So as I think about the same thing, and I think about, okay, what does it mean to be an effective leader? Essentially, to me, it looks pretty much the same. First of all, we need to resolve to be a more effective leader in our work life. You could also apply this to other things, I know. But after that, it's pretty much the same. Balance what you take in, what you put out, developing routines and habits, getting support, recovering from setbacks, and commitment for life. And so let's just talk, and I'm not going to go through all of these, in the 20 minutes we have. What I want to do is maybe just cover the first 4 and then go into our breakout. And what I want you to be thinking about as I go through this is, how am I doing this? Am I doing this? Or how effectively am I doing this? And see if you can identify a strength and a weakness for yourself. So first of all, resolving to be a better leader. Leadership to me is something that could be done by anybody, right? It's not a role. We don't think about leader as a role. Anybody can lead. So I think about this a little bit more of the action of leading. And so when we think about Agile, and we want to start to throw the word Agile in here, Agile leadership is not, I'm going to stress that, is not a leader who knows Agile. And I think if you've gone to a Cal 1, you've realized this. Certified Agile Leadership is not teaching Agile. Certified Agile Leadership is teaching leadership. We're helping leaders have agility. Now, one of the things that's really important to me is thinking about what is agility. And in fact, if you look at the definition, at least in English, if you look at the definition of the word agility, yes, it's the ability to move quickly and easily, but it's also the ability to think and understand quickly. And that one is the one that I find to be fascinating. We often don't think about agility of thought. And this is where things like creativity and, how able am I to be clear. Now, if you think about like an animal, if an animal is really quick in terms of its movement, but it's really slow in terms of thought, you can kind of assume the movement's useless. Because if I don't recognize I need to move, movement's no good. So these have a dependency on them. So the aha for me is, okay, agile leaders are more creative. This is what we call thinking agility. And they're more adaptive. This is the action agility. So it's not just about agile as Scrum, and it's not just agile as, hey, I can change, I can redirect, I can pivot, but it's about, is my thinking agile? Is my approach? Now, the last piece of this, resolving to be a better agile leader, I want to connect into the fact that agile leaders are not just like that dog in Up, squirrel, 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 jumping around. In fact, to be agile, and if you don't have a vision, what tends to happen is we just tend to get, waylaid all the time. And so what we think about is actually effective agile leaders have a very clear, centered personal vision, because that's what grounds you when everything else around you is moving, is shifting, is like that storm. And so the metaphor here I want to think about when I'm resolving to be a better agile leader is not necessarily I'm the one changing all the time, but I know where and how to change because I'm grounded in who I am. And in a sense, when I get up in the morning, I understand that so I can make the decisions to be agile in a purposeful way. So I just want to kind of, connect into that. Agility without a vision is just movement. It's that concept of, if we don't have a clear personal vision, this concept of agile doesn't make sense. So that's resolving to be a better agile leader. Now, the second one, balance what you've been and what you put out. Now, in health, when we think about this balance, what we think about is eating and exercising, and that makes sense. But for leadership, this also plays. What you take in and what you put out, we call this power style. And what this means essentially is what you take in is how do you receive others, and what you put out is what you share with others. This is what we call the power style. And all leaders have power style biases. I tend to be on the assertive spectrum of this. Others tend to be on the accommodative side. Now, what does that mean? Accommodative means you tend to take in more than you put out. You tend to absorb what other people say. You tend to be patient. You tend to be, you listen. You're great listeners. You're empathetic. You connect to others. My partner does this extremely well. Others put out more. They share more. They're quick to judge. They're quick to share. They might even be inspiring and focused. Neither of these are good or bad. They're both, it's just like eating. Eating's good. Eating's bad. Exercise can be good. Exercise can be bad. The same is true for your sort of accommodative power styles. They're both good. Take them too far, and they're both bad. And this is where, agile leaders aren't simply servant leaders. And servant leadership I see as being taught often too much on the accommodative spectrum. Agile leaders are balanced situationally, which again ties back to, am I aware of my power style? Am I able to think in the moment, be creative in the moment, and actually balance? So it's not like, hey, today I'm assertive, tomorrow I'm accommodative. It's in this conversation, I'm both assertive and I'm accommodative. I both share and I listen. I both, ask questions and I provide my thoughts. How do we do that in real time? It's what we call a balance board in a sense of continuously kind of managing that tension. So we've had two. I've got to have a clear personal resolve to be a better agile leader. I've got to balance my inputs and my outputs. Now it's the habits. Aristotle, I love that quote. We are what we do repeatedly. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So habits we know are important. The problem is habits don't change much. I mean, by nature, a habit is something you repeat. And we know with like Agile's like all about change. So this funny intersection is like, how do you build habits of change? It's a little bit of an oxymoron. Like catalyst habits is like, I can build a habit of change. What does that actually look like to build a catalyst habit, a habit of change? And, we've been building up this concept of what we call a learning cycle. And I've been playing around with this, and I posted on LinkedIn a little bit on this learning cycle. And what I'm starting to realize is, this concept of we've got to have this focus, this clarity of where we're going. Because if we don't have clarity in where we're going, decisions and pivoting are, again, pretty useless. So the second thing we build is this resolve to get there. So I think this is more than intent. Like, all right, I'm going to focus on, in a sense, whether it's a strategy, whether it's an effect of what I'm trying to do as a leader, I'm trying to do something, but then I got to have the resolve to do it. And this is like ownership. This is like determination. This is like putting it on your top of your to-do list. Then I got to act. I got to actually do it. And, as any model, as any kind of PDCA, any kind of UDA, any kind of, sprint cycle, we have that reflection in there. How did I do? What did I do? And so when we think about this, any learning cycle has the same constructs. What I like about this one and what we're kind of developing here is the concept that this thing will repeat. So not only do I have focus, but I have to refocus. So based on my reflection, what do I need to change now that I'm learning from what I'm doing? And this applies to everything that I do as a leader. I apply it to myself. Now, of course, we're going to have outside influences. I call these curveballs. Essentially, a curveball is just something you don't expect. It changes the game. An outside influence happens. So how do I react? So when we put all this together, what we call this is the relearning cycle. So the word re becomes real important in this cycle that, all right, I've got to have focus or refocus. I've got to have resolve to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. I've got to be able to act or react in real time to be able to do that, and then reflect on how I'm doing. And so this concept of a catalyst habit is what I do isn't the habit, how I do it becomes the habit. My ability to reflect, we call this a reflection action cycle, that if you can get this, everything else can fit in to this cycle. And good Agile leaders do this. So again, Agile leaders are never done, but they build habits of learning, unlearning, and relearning. So we've got 3: clear, centered focus. What is my personal vision? Number 2, balance what you take in, take out. And now number 3, am I developing a catalyst habit? Now, let's go to number 4. Number 4 talks about this concept of support. So what we know is humans learn better in community. Like the concept of social learning is really important. In fact, what we talk about is this is why classrooms, this is why universities, this is why the whole school system in most countries is built on learning together. Yes, you have, go back to ancient times, you have mentors and you have apprenticeships. That's still community. Typically, it's more of a one-to-one. But you start to think about, learning in larger groups. How do we learn from peers, teachers, et cetera. So in health, we know this means, having clubs, having programs, classes, things you do. And in fact, the exact same thing is true for leadership, right? There's really no difference here. So recognizing you're not alone and recognizing the fact that all of you are here in this webinar says that you value community. You value the Scrum Alliance community. You value the Agile leadership community in the Scrum Alliance. You value the community of educators and peers. And in fact, we value you because I think I learn as much teaching as I do going to classes sometimes from the people that I teach. And to me, that's all community. And so when we think about, in Cal 2, going from a classroom, what I'll talk about then after we talk a little bit about Cal 2 is how does this apply when you're starting to really practice?